One of the main things that I like to do in the beginning of the year is cleanse and detox. So I come out of the gate strong, right? We go into the New Year's, we like to set our intentions, our goals. The antiquated notion is New Year's resolutions, but the higher ground, the higher principle, of course, is setting your intentions. Because when we get clear up here, nothing's more powerful than a made-up mind, right? The Shaolin monks believe that they can walk through walls. Coupled with their meditation and their kung fu training, they can. My message is very simple. It's biblical. It's what Gandhi said. It's become the change that you wish to see in the world. My message is simple. It's healthy me equals a healthy planet. Healthy me equals a healthy planet, meaning how do we expect to see a healthy world if we are not healthy ourselves? And when you start to dig into what ancient knowledge knew, personal hygiene on the inside was the critical component of optimal health, and you actually being your own doctor. And so we've gotten a little far away from this because we've gotten a little far away from nature. We kind of gave up our power a lot to other elements like the medical industry, the pharmaceutical industry. These are the people with authority that can help our health. However, that's really not the way it works, and you're starting to see that show up in the current statistics, right? We've got 67% of the American people are overweight or obese. We've got 1 in 3 have cancer. That's after 1947 they declared a war on cancer. The President of the United States declared a war on cancer, and the cancer rate has grown exponentially with the amount of dollars they've spent. So if you look at the dollar rate of how much they've invested in cancer study and the actual incidence of cancer, it's in direct proportion, right? So the study of disease begets disease. The study of health begets health. It only makes sense, right? Whether it's just to reset our intentions and to get very clear, but it's that clarity of mind, clarity of intent that is going to help you go through this world and create the world that you desire. Because that's really the way the world works, is we've been gifted by the Creator to create. Right? And I'll get into that in a little while, and it's directly related to food and how we treat our bodies. The internet basically is the new TV, people. Recently, YouTube surpassed all the networks combined. The dollars haven't followed yet, but that's all changing as we speak. And so I believe the internet will be one of the major components of the shift in consciousness on planet Earth. And it already is. Facebook is phenomenal in that realm. We get to change things just by speaking our truth and grabbing a couple links here and there with some scientific proof to back it up, right? Or some doctors, or good documentary, and it's just like, that way you get the naysayers on the internet that go, no, it's not. Any scientific proof? I didn't hear that on the CNN, or the President of the United States didn't say that. That's not true. Oh, well, okay. Well, here's a whole bunch of other people's studies and documentaries and a whole bunch of footage on that, which is actually the truth. So the internet, I believe, will be one of the great equalizers on planet Earth. 21 years ago, I was sitting in Milan, Italy. I was a Versace model, and if anybody knows about that industry, and most people don't, it's like most industries, they look glamorous on the outside. However, they've got their underbelly of shadow and demons, and that industry's got a lot of them, let me tell you. And the agents, they're real cutthroat. A little bit of water weight, and they're like, look, you're fat. That's how the girls get all messed up with bulimia and anorexia coming out of the modeling industry. And drugs and alcohol, it goes all hand in hand with that whole industry. My agents were like, you're fat. And it was like, well, nothing really changed. However, I grew up as an American thinking Pop-Tarts and Captain Crunch was actually food, right? Who knew? What I did was I went to the English bookstore in Milan, Italy, and I got a book. One of my first books was Fit for Life, where it kind of educated me on, the elements of food, or at least one person's take on it. So it really started to educate and move my consciousness towards educating myself on what food was and what my body was and how it functioned, because they didn't teach that in school, right? They don't teach you about your liver in school. They don't teach you about whole foods in school. In fact, you go home and you eat TV dinners, right, in front of the TV. That's like the American way. As I started to educate myself, I started to realize that food is meant to be, or it's best assimilated in its whole food form. I realized that at the cornerstone of what all the ancients knew, it was internal purification, or hygiene, right? We wash our cars. I mean, who knows that we have smog in LA? Right? Anybody leave their car for a couple of weeks? Right? I mean, what is that stuff? Anyone not wax their car and not wash their car, and now they need a new paint job? Anybody? Anybody? I mean, this happens if you actually don't wax your car and you don't wash it very often. And so imagine those elements that are coming inside of your body, right? We've got to clean those out, because those things end up in our tissues. And a lot of these pollution elements and dust have been analyzed. And what are they finding? They're finding what comes out of the airplanes. Whether you call it chemtrails, or whether you call it pollution, or whether you call it conspiracy theory, or whatever you call it, it ends up in your tissues, right? So how do you get those things out of your tissues? How do you purge the liver? How do you cleanse the blood, the kidneys, the colon? How does the body function? Really, that's what we want to look at and start to, observe. The ancients utilized fasting. And fasting is just a way of allowing your organs to rest while you're still penetrating it with liquids, whether it's fresh squeezed organic juices or whether it's pure water. I don't recommend a water fast for anyone unless they're well versed in it, well educated, and probably properly supervised. Don Tolman is a big speaker on 40-day water fast, which is what Pythagoras and Jesus did. And actually, to get into the Pythagorean school, and Pythagoras was the only brother that was allowed into the Egyptian temples other than the pharaohs. And Pythagoras and his whole school was set up to get into his school. You had to do a 40-day fast, and then you couldn't speak for a year. Right? There's something about the brain is mostly water, and when we still those waters, then we can start to think clearly. Still them and also cleanse them. What did the ancients know? From Pythagoras to Jesus, the Essenes, the Greeks, what did they know? They knew inner hygiene. And there's 7 principles of optimal health, and they go like this: clean air, water, sunshine, whole foods, walking, loving relationships, and passion. The etymology of passion is passing ions. 51% of what people buy from you is not product knowledge, right? Jesus was the greatest salesman. Don't ever forget that, right? We're always just sharing concepts and upgrading people, especially if you got something good. You're upgrading people to higher ground concepts. When you're working with people, people are buying from you your enthusiasm, your passion, right? They're not buying what you're selling, they're buying you, first of all. And so that's the vibration, that passion, that electricity that people want, need, get it, especially if they don't have it themselves in their life. That's why you see a lot of people following these motivational speakers. You know, some graduate and attain what the speakers are doing, but a lot of them just follow. A lot of them just follow because they want that energy. We live in one of the top 5 dirtiest cities on the face of the earth. It goes something like Mexico City, Sao Paulo, LA I think is 5th. And so I think Tokyo is pretty dirty, Hong Kong, something like that, you know? And so you're dealing with this constant barrage of pollution. You've got the diesel engines that are putting out lead. The chemtrails have been tested for aluminum and barium. Aluminum is a highly toxic material, and it embeds in your brain. One of the only ways to get at that is malic acid, which are in apples. right? Malic acid is a great chelator to go after the aluminum in your brain, especially when it's bonded with fluoride. Where's the fluoride coming from? The fluoride's coming from your water, thanks to whatever legislation got passed on that day, right? And fluoride's a highly toxic substance, as aluminum is, as mercury is, which they put in your teeth as well. And so this isn't common knowledge, because we go to the dentist, we drink the water, we listen to the politicians going, this is good for you, and we don't check anything. We're like, oh, those guys have our best interest at hand, And, maybe they're well-meaning. However, if you start looking into scientific research and study, aluminum, mercury, fluoride are highly toxic substances in the human being body. So how do you get these things out? I mean, is there any mystery to anyone out there in the audience of why we have 67% obesity rates, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, Alzheimer's on the rise, autism on the rise, ADHD, depression, I mean, all sorts of brain dysfunction and disease, and major health issues with, living in the first world? To me, it's not a mystery. It has to do with the pollution that's in our society, the contamination of the air, the water, and the soil, and the food. So how do you get these things out of your tissue? Because it's constant barrage. Until we change, what is my mission on the planet is to create clean air, water, and soil for all of mankind to co-create peace on earth on this planet, right? And this is my intention. It's coming very, very soon. Because as soon as every man, woman, and child realizes this, and what is relevant to human species is clean air, water, and soil. Food is free, right? You take a seed, you put it in fertile soil, it grows and bears fruit. As we move through this awareness first, and then we start voting with our dollars, buying products that are only good for the human being and only good for the earth, then we can start making decisions for the better of the future of our planet. Why? Because the politicians really aren't listening. I did my war protest in 2003. I did a bunch of them, right? Went downtown, went to Hollywood. Nobody listened. Nobody listened. In fact, everyone was at the UN and they were like, hey, don't go into Iraq, Did they listen? No. And they still didn't listen. We're still over there and they're fighting this war, and it's like, come on now. So, vote with your dollars. That's how you can really make an impact. We all have a choice because we all have dollars in our pockets. And so when you start to vote with your biochemistry in mind, you take care of everything else. It's a symbiotic relationship. It's the one way you can be an activist. There's a lot of fasts that are known to start out with an apple, especially if you're going to do a liver flush. I know a lot of information. However, I don't know everything. And I also want to make this disclaimer. I don't know what's right for you. You know what's right for you. I'm going to give you a myriad of different options for you to choose. A myriad of different options so where you can move towards the best decision for yourself. There's books I can recommend, there's fasts that I can recommend, there's cleanses that I can recommend without fasting. However, at the end of the day, you're going to have to make the best decision for yourself because you're in control of your own situation. I don't teach food paradigms. Why? Because I tried everybody's food paradigms and got sick, right? To be a strong, vital human being, I had to go through that and understand that. One of the major elements that I got from veganism was clean food, right? So clean food is tantamount to being a clean human. So if you're going to eat meat, grass-fed, the animals are meant to eat grass, right? They're not meant to eat grain. Grain creates gas in multiple stomach animals. Gas in their system creates acidosis in their blood. Acidosis in their blood means acidosis in your blood. Acidosis in your blood is one of the three major components of cancer. That with poor lymph flow and a low or no will to live. One of the major things that allopathic medicine doesn't look at, right? So we have four bodies in the third dimension, right? Mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. The physical manifestation of what shows up in you is the last thing that's going on. Everything else is going on inside of you mentally, emotionally, and spiritually first. And then it manifests on the physical last. Mental, you have your own thoughts, positive or negative. Emotional, you forgive your parents or anybody who abused you because those emotions end up harboring negative energy. You talk to a lot of cancer survivors or people that have had cancer. Louise Hay's whole body of work, she was raped as a child and she got vaginal cancer. And she beat it with chemo, and then it came back. She's like, I'm going to beat it this time. And so maybe you guys have Louise Hay's book over here. I recommend checking it out for people because the mental and emotional aspect gets overlooked in our society a lot. And in the health field, it gets overlooked a lot too because this whole movement is about food, which is physical, right? And food, you definitely want to be putting pure food in your body. However, it's not everything because neurosis, should I eat this? Should I eat that? David Wolf says that. Daniel Vitalis says that. I'm so confused. What do? Oh, I grew up in the 80s. It was a high fat, low carbohydrate, high fat, Atkins. Who am I? What am I doing here? Who's thinking my thoughts? And so everyone's so confused. They don't know what's going on. So it's like, how do you make your own decisions? You educate yourself on clean food, you find out what's best for you, and then you move towards putting those elements in your body, cleaning your kidney, colon, liver on a regular and constant basis. Mental and emotional aspect, definitely, look into that, and your spiritual connection. The one thing that I believe that is a direct spiritual connection is nature. Right? We all live in one of the most, you go out your backyard over there on Venice Beach and you go to one of the most remote places on earth, right? The Pacific Ocean. So we have nature here that's accessible in the city, right? And you got the Santa Monica Mountains, you got Yosemite that's not too far. I recommend watching my video on how Yosemite changed my life. It talks about Galen Clark, who was the first park ranger in the United States Park Service, and he was given 5 months to live for tuberculosis in the 1800s. He went to Yosemite because he's like, hey, if I'm going to die, I'm going to Yosemite, And so he went there, and 54 years later, the brother died. 5 months to live. Right? Why? John Muir writes about it in all his books. The healing powers of the water, the mountain air, right? The energy of the granite rocks, right? All this energy ended up healing and curing the brother. The cure for AIDS and cancer is your immune system. The cure for anything is embedded in nature. In fact, I've got a good quote. The physician within. Everyone has a physician inside him or her. We just have to help it in its work, right? Did they teach you this in school? I didn't learn it in school. The natural healing force within each one of us is the greatest force in getting well. Remember, once again, intention first. I choose health. When most of the cancer people, you talk to them, they have low or no will to live. When I talk to people, I have a problem. Can you help me? First thing I ask them, do you want to live? And if they give me oh, of course, and that's not a yes. I'm looking for an emphatic yes. Because when you say yes, that's what's going to happen. Because it's your intention. Nothing is more powerful than a made-up mind, right? So our food should be our medicine, and thy medicine be thy food. But to eat when you are sick is to feed your sickness. Hippocrates, right? Ancient philosopher, ancient wise man, and the Hippocratic Oath, which is the essence of what the medical industry is set up for, says to do no harm. And that's the Hippocratic Oath, which is directly related to Hippocrates, right? Let thy food be thy medicine, and thy medicine be thy food, right? So we've gotten so far away from it, from the food chain. That's why Whole Foods is so important. That's why a store like Whole Foods is important for our society and the planet as a whole, because it provides a source for where people can get it, and it's growing. It's a good thing that this commerce is growing. Why? So it's more accessible to more people, and the power of the corporation to buy more that is good for the earth, the good practices. Because let's face it, nobody's perfect. A lot of the toxic elements were made from brakes and vehicles and gasoline engines and stuff like that. Who's got a car here? I got a car. What do we want to do? Shoot ourselves in the foot? Cars are no good. Oil sucks. BP, let's fire them. Okay? Get your ass walking down the street. I don't want to hear it from anybody. Right? In the meantime, we start advocating free energy. We start advocating these things, these higher concept principles, these higher principles that will help shift humanity. And you want to support companies that are out there that are doing good. You want to spend your dollars with companies, you want to align them, you want to look at your ingredients on every single thing you buy. If it's a preservative or a chemical or a flavoring and fragrance means synthetic. By law, it means synthetic. So you have to look and make sure it has either essential oils, if it's a fragrance, or these other elements. It's in your highest and best interest to look at the ingredients and make sure that it is a biological match for your human biology. Or don't buy it. Why? Because there's 10 other products. When I moved to Los Angeles and started studying acting, I hooked up with Dr. Schultz, and he became one of my mentors. His DVDs and books embodied the information that I'd studied the 10 previous years. And so, and his catalogs were free, and they were pretty juicy too. So I would hand them out, and I'd say, look, just study this. And they were like, well, are you trying to sell me on something? And it's like, yeah, I'm trying to sell you on getting healthy. I don't make any money off of it. However, help yourself. When I told him that story, I did that for 5 years. He sent me a huge box of herbs. One thing I learned from Dr. Schultz is quality, and the second thing I learned from him is wild. Wild is the top of the food chain, right? So you've got wild, then you have biodynamic, which means the birds and the bees and all the elements of nature are on that property. Then you've got Oregon Tilth Organic, some of the higher rated organics, USDA organic, commercial, and GMO. That's the food chain on the planet. God created the wild as a biological match, and so as close as we can get to that, and they have some wild products in here. I recommend trying them. Wild has a higher vibration. It's exactly that. It's wild. And so, you know, I eat about 30 to 40% wild in my diet. Can you feel my energy? It's wild, right? And that's the way, we're animals, right? We are biological animals living in an electric body, having chemical reactions and a spiritual experience. But we're physical animals. The human being is a mammal. And so we forgot that. And the religions have stepped in and said, no, we're not. We're more than that. And there's been more people killed in the name of religion than any other facet on the planet, right? So, fact of the matter is honor your animal first, right? We're animals. We procreate. We like to have fun. We like to brush up against each other. We like to go for a swim. We like to run on the beach. We like to have fun, not drive in traffic and punch time clocks and hate our lives. So it's about waking up to higher concept principles. And one of the best ways to wake up is start to clean your body and put the good high vibrational stuff into your system. And then you start gaining that radiant health and that passion. And it starts going out to other people. 5 years after studying with Dr. Richard Schultz, somebody introduced me to the Amazon herbs, Amazon John Easterling, Christian Opitz, Dr. James Haver, Dr. James Duke, some of the leading ethnobotanists on the planet. I became extremely aligned with the Amazon herbs because of their mission and vision to save one of our most precious resources, which is the Amazon rainforest. Their mission and vision is to offer the world life-changing herbal remedies, economically empower indigenous tribes, who in turn get to stay on the ancestral lands and watch the rainforest for all mankind. That is a beautiful thing. Because I don't know any other company out there that has that level of penetration into the symbiotic relationship of the human being applied to the modern world and is going forward environmentally to change the world. That's why I believe in something like Whole Foods, because commerce has a big major component of dictating the material world. Anybody who wants to dispute that, look at computers and Bill Gates. Look at Steve Jobs. These are some of the biggest entrepreneurs on the planet that are shifting the consciousness on the planet. I flew to the Amazon. I've been down there. I've done ayahuasca, the world's most powerful herbal medicine. I spent many years meditating in silent meditation. What came to me when I was sitting in the Amazon is this whole idea popped into my head because I've had a career in front of the camera for 20 years, and I spent the last 5 years before I got into the Amazon doing comedy. And so my natural medicine background and my on-camera personality merged into the certified health nut, and it popped into my head in a blink of an eye, and it made me laugh right in the middle of a ceremony in the Amazon rainforest. So that's what I've been doing for the last 3 or 4 years, is producing the certified health nut. Most of it you can see on the internet, and of course I'm producing it for TV as well. And I continue to educate myself. I continue to work with other people that have knowledge, because I'm a sponge, man. Give me some information. I don't claim to know it all, and I want to study with other people who have. One of the guys I studied with last year is Don Tolman. He's the whole food cowboy. And this brother, he studied the etymology and root concepts of words all the way back to the Vatican. He made it into the Vatican Library and found secrets, right? He's the one who gave me the elements from Pythagoras to Jesus on the 7 principles of optimal health. What he realized is there's an ancient word in Hebrew called El. And El means God. There is divine orchestration in language. It's in movies, it's in everything. But there's divine orchestration in language. And so you take the elbow, right? The L, God bows to the temples, right? We got a couple temples up here, right? It triangulates into our throat chakra or our thyroid. And then our mandible triangulates into our all-seeing eye to make a Star of David. So the elbow, God bows to the temple. This is pretty far out esoteric stuff. However, it's going to resonate in your heart. Watch this. So the God bows to the temple. The L bows to the temple with tithes and offerings, right? The alimentary tract is either the river of life or the river of death, depending on what you feed it. And then God will gift you back in the bow L's, right? That's God bowing back to you, right? And depending on what you feed the alimentary tract, then God gifts you back with vowels, so you can create with your speech, right? Abracadabra, I create with my words. We have gotten so far away from that in the natural world, right? There's a little of this stuff being peppered into the New Age community and stuff, right? We create. Yes, we create with our own words, with our intention, our made-up mind, with our clean blood, with our high vibrational mind that's thinking at an optimal level, and we carry forth this message to each and every brother and sister that is in your way, because once you are turned on, we need other turned on brothers and sisters on this planet. You don't hold your tongue once you know this information. You share it with every single person that you know. There's toxic elements that are not made for the human body bloodstream. They are not a biological match. It says in the ancient Old Testament, never to graft the hand of God. What is GMOs? Genetically weaving Agent Orange, which is a biological weapon. It's a biological weapon created in the Vietnam War by one of Monsanto's sister companies. It's a biological weapon that's been interwoven in soy, canola, corn, and cotton. And so these things are not meant for the human being body. They end up killing the other herbs. They're herbicides and pesticides woven into the genetic structure, so they're resistant to herbicides and pesticides. And then that ends up killing off the flora and the fauna, the birds and the bees that sing at high frequency into these plants. There's a whole body of research called Sonic Bloom, where this guy created the sounds of nature, and they put it next to crops, these monocultured crops out in Iowa and stuff. And the crops just blew up because this thing had been missing, because the flora and fauna had been killed from the pesticides and the herbicides. So the recognition of this, and this is why I'm so passionate about this, because most people go along and go, there's nothing wrong, I'm asymptomatic and I'm healthy, don't talk to me, leave me alone, and next thing you know, the brother, mother, sister to them, they've got issues. Cancer, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia. So it's so important that we recognize where the food chain is, what these things mean, what GMOs mean. I don't believe in the Antichrist, right? I'm a positive human being, right? However, I believe that GMOs are the Antichrist. Honestly. So we have to be, as human beings, we have to all be crusaders for the planet and make a stand and say, not for my blood, not for my brothers and sisters' blood, not for my children's blood, not for anyone else's blood. And you open up the mouth. That's what God gave it you for. It's not about stepping on people's toes. It's like making a stand. Because who else is going to do it? Who voted for change, Barack Obama, and hope, and all that, blah, blah, blah. What happened? Nothing. Nothing happened, man. Because the bankers run everything. There's elites, there's shadow governments that are behind everything. But I don't want to go there. We don't need to go there, right? We just have to recognize. Hold the questions for later, because I'm on a roll and I got to get to the cleanse and detox. I went totally sideways and I got to come back over here. I recommend eating organic food only. Right? If you could talk to the farmer, he can look you in the eye and say, I don't use any blah, 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 and I didn't get the certification because it was too much money and blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. Deal with them. No problem. Do the best you can, because remember, neurosis is a mental disorder, and that's a sickness. So always do the best you can without going neurotic. Right? Does that make sense to everyone? Do the best you can without going neurotic. Most people casually assume that they're either healthy or you're sick. Yet there are grades in between. Just because one is asymptomatic does not mean they are radiantly vital. And that's what we're after, right? We need conscious, clear, coherent human beings that know the truth and stand up for it, no matter what. Like MLK, right? Martin Luther King, right? He wasn't taking no nonsense, right? Well, Malcolm X woke up. Is that brother taking any nonsense? No. The machine, no, save your wolf tickets and nonsense for other people, right? And so that's what's required on this planet, is conscious, clear, clean human beings thinking for the betterment of humanity. 7 principles of health, we covered that. Clean air, water, those are both dirty, so you got to clean that stuff out of your tissues. And that's what we're going to get to this. Sunshine, the sun is good for you. Who made up the sun is bad for you? Thank you very much. The chemical companies. The sun is good for you. Take off your sunglasses. Your body secretes a hormone. There's 1,500 sibling sunshine rays in there. It's not just blue, green, purple, red, yellow, and orange. There's 1,500 elements in the light spectrum. Take your sunglasses off when you're out in the sun, because there's hormones that are released that protect you against the sun. Because you don't see indigenous people wearing sunglasses, right? Right? So anyways, I got rid of them. I got that information from Robert Cassar, and if anybody's seen that guy, he's ripped to the bone. So I'd listen to at least half of what he's got to say. The other half, he's an animal, and he's ripped to the bone, and he's 50 years old. So sunshine, sun's good for you, 20 minutes a day, 70% of your body, right? 20 minutes a day, 70% of your body. Do the best you can, but the sun's good for you. Sunscreen, wear a friggin' hat or a shirt. You know what I'm saying? And eat antioxidants, right? The antioxidants are out of our food supply because the food's depleted. Eat reds, purples, stuff like that. Stuff that's going to give you powerful antioxidants. Walking. Human being is designed to move through time and space like this. Right? In fact, I interviewed a 95-year-old guy a couple of weeks ago, and he was in the bank, and he goes, "I'm 95," and he was talking, and I go, "Hey, buddy, what's the secret to life?" And he goes, "Keep smiling." And then he said, "And walk." My grandmother used to say, "Move it or lose it." Right? Whole foods. What does that mean? Organic. Whole foods as best as you can get. you know, grains. I just went on the gluten-free. I think that's applicable to a lot of people on this planet. Did Mercola's nutritional typing. It's free. Most people shouldn't be vegetarians, apparently, according to him, and I actually believe that. 6%, I think, are the studies behind that. Weston Price's whole body of work, and then now Sally Fallon's also talks about that, Paul Chek. So for any of those non-meat eaters out there that are feeling a little sluggish and it's not working for them, review it for yourself. Weston Price is found out his whole body of research all over the planet with indigenous cultures was that there were no successful societies that were vegetarian. It's not my work. I'm just repeating what I heard. However, from my own experience, I didn't do very good as a vegetarian. I was paying attention to the dogma, and I got sicker and sicker and sicker until one day I had pizza and I felt great. And I was like, let's review this. So, hey, that's my experience. I'm not telling you what to eat. However, if you're going to eat animal, make sure it's grass-fed.
Troy, I'm telling you what to eat.
Oh, sweet.
This is Kelly's favorite: kale, spinach, parsley, ginger, and apple.
Oh, that, you know, the funny thing is Kelly and I set this up before the talk. However, I just rambled for 45 minutes, and it was just like, this is like, green juice hits the spot. I started out with carrots for about 7 years, carrot apple, this, that, and the other thing. I switched over to green juice about 13 years ago, and it's just like, nothing is more energizing. And I, in honor of this talk today, I fasted. I started a fast yesterday afternoon, and I love one-day fasts because they're so powerfully energizing. One-day fast. The Chinese and Indian culture, you actually fast on the day you were born. I was born on a Thursday. Today's not Thursday. However, in honor of this talk, I figured I'd fast. Enzymes in a centrifugal juicer will dissipate within 15 minutes. Hammer your juices, it's okay. They're pre-digested. Loving relationships, and the opposite of that, of course, is toxic relationships. So we want to keep an eye on that. You know, what might be wrecking our own frequency and vibration. If somebody's giving us a pain in the neck, we might want to review that relationship. And then passion. What turns you on? You know, a lot of these great motivational speakers, Wayne Dyer, Gary Null, Tony Robbins, they say flat out, find your passion. The money will follow. It only makes sense, right? You know, I don't get paid for a lot of the stuff I do. Most of my YouTube videos, it's not a direct link to cash. I make no money off of this talk here. However, I love to do it. I love to do it, and I know that I'm taken care of. I know that I'm always taken care of. I'm building market share, and soon enough I will dominate the world on my health talks. So the body is made up of tubes. Veins, ventricles, arteries, cones, retinas. You're totally tubular dude. Right? Anybody ever heard that joke before? Don Tolman, the whole food cowboy. He's awesome. Your intestines, 36 feet of tubes. 90% of the issues are either clogged tubes, smashed tubes, cut tubes. That's basically it. Even the bones are tubes. There's marrow going down the middle of them. How do you clean the tubes, right? There's only 5 ways: respiration, perspiration, urination, defecation, exfoliation. That's it. I did hot yoga this morning. You want to wring out the barnacles and just wring yourself out, go do some hot yoga. 110 degrees, you sweat for an hour and a half, and you do yoga moves to get it all out. Saunas, far infrared saunas, in the sun, with a sweatshirt on, with a fat suit on, whatever you want to do, sweat. Sweating's great for you. And I don't recommend clogging your underarms up with commercial underarm deodorant because it blocks the lymph. You want to get that stuff out there. We're all animals. Learn to love your smell. Right? That's where the pheromones, that's where the chicks get on the pheromones, right? From the smell. Because we're all animals, right? You know, when you clean the body out, you start smelling good. Smell like an animal. And so not like a chemical factory. Respiration. So, you know, any kind of cardiovascular, getting out there walking. You know, go out for a brisk walk. That's going to elevate you. I really dig a lot of these breathing techniques that are out there. Why? Because you're bringing the breath up through and down the spine into the hips. You want to get the breath all in there. And so, and lots of breathing, especially in this hot yoga or Kundalini yoga, they do so you get the breath that's stuck in the bottom of your lungs and your diaphragm, you get that stuff out. Urination, right? What's the urination? It's directly related to the kidneys. So that's when we're going to talk about fasting, right? So urination, you want to do a kidney flush. Fasting in general, juice fasts, master cleanse, water fasts, they're going to start to clean out and make you urinate a lot anyway. If you need to drop some water weight quickly, I recommend just going for the purest coffee that you can get made in espresso. That'll dump water just like that. I recommend watching your coffee intake because caffeine dilates your adrenals and it can chelate your minerals out of your body. And so you want to keep on a close balance of your coffee intake. Don't be mainlining it through an IV, a quart of espresso when you live in Italy like me. You don't want to do that because you can burn yourself out. You don't want to burn your adrenals out because that's your life force energy, your Jing life force energy. Defecation. So I think everyone with cleansing should really consider cleaning out the colon first. That's the first thing that you want to go after. You want to do it a couple of times a year. Whole Foods has got some great products for that. I personally like Dr. Schultz's formula. It's been working for me. I like it. A large percent of the population is constipated anyways. And so I recommend that you find something that works for you so you're defecating a few times a week. Everybody, you know, poop is really important. A few times a day. I'm sorry.
Man, you're behind schedule.
I got some antiquated information. No, we want to be pooping, you know, 1 or 2 times a day. You got 36 feet of intestines in there. So, you know, a couple big poops a day. You want to reach towards that however you can get there. You know, that's the goal. I just finished a 7-day fast. I was still pooping big poops twice a day. 7-day fast, only liquid and herbs, and I was still pooping. So that tells you there's a lot of stuff up there. Dandelion, I believe, saved my liver. I read about it before I got into a big drug and alcohol phase, and I was an alcoholic that would drink, and I would snort cocaine to stay up 24 hours a day so I could drink more. That's the way I rolled. And I chain smoked cigarettes. I smoked for 25 years. Most people don't realize that. So cleansing your tissues, I'm 45 years old today. Cleansing your tissues makes a difference. In fact, it makes all the difference. And I believe that dandelion saved my liver. It's a great diuretic and a liver tonic. Another good liver tonic is your good friend celery. Now the doctrine of signatures on celery is, a doctrine of signature is you cut up in a walnut, it looks like your brain. You cut open a tomato, it looks like your heart. You cut open a carrot, it looks like the iris of your eye. You snap a celery stalk, it sounds like a broken bone. It's 23 or 25% sodium, and so are your bones. And it's about the size of a bone, right? Doctrine of signatures. So this is a great diuretic. The greens are just super animalistic when it comes to energy and cleansing and detoxifying. It gives your body so much energy so that your organs and your enzymes can rest, and your enzymes can start to eat at the other stuff. The enzymes can start eating at undigested protein solids, arterial plaque, anything that's in its way. See, fasting, when you stop fasting, like Hippocrates said here, but to eat when you are sick is to feed your sickness. When you're fasting, the enzymes can start to eat the sickness. right? The body can start healing itself. You clear the blockages and the body automatically starts healing itself. The body will start to eat itself and start to eat the material that no longer belongs in there. There's an innate intelligence. God created us that way. It's called autogenesis. The body will automatically heals itself when you have the proper nutrition in the body and or you clear out the blockages. I got into Cascara Sagrada, and I hear they're about to outlaw this. The Codex Alimentarius is going to outlaw this in Pada Arco. And this is one of the ingredients in one of Dr. Schultz's formulas that I like for the intestines. It's Cascara Sagrada. And so this is just a simple herb that I got into that helped move my colon early on. The thing you have to watch out with any things that are laxatives, even if they're mild, is you don't want to create imbalances in your body to where your body depends upon them. Another great herb to utilize that's available almost anywhere, and it accelerates any of the other herbs that you use, is cayenne pepper. It's good for the circulation. Milk thistle. I mean, world-renowned for the liver purification. So if you go, once you decide to go into a fast, and I recommend you get a book, you get a counselor, you get someone that's going to help you with this if you haven't done it before. You try 1 day, you try 3 days, you try 5 days. Me, the animal that I am, I jumped straight forward and I went and did a 10-day fast. And then I do 10-day fasts every year, and then I started doing more 5-day fasts 4 times a year. But milk thistle's excellent for scrubbing the liver. As far as the milk thistle and the dandelion and cleaning out the liver, you want the liver clean. The liver is directly related to the skin. And the skin is also directly related to the hormones. So all those things, those imbalances, and your body filters everything through the liver. So once again, all the pollution and stuff. That's why you want to keep these organs pumping. Everybody's heard of gallstones, kidney stones, cataracts, diverticulitis. These are clogged tubes. All of them. The bentonite, this is bentonite clay. So the bentonite clay can go into the pockets in your intestines and get gas and potentially some heavy metals, some other stuff. It has the ability, it's like putting a mask on your face, but it's a mask, it's like having a mask in your intestines. So it soaks up all those toxins and stuff. Where do you get your exfoliation? A dry skin brush. You want to do circular motions away from the heart towards the heart, starting with the extremities. Bring the energy of the blood up through the skin and allow it to get released. And get it going, man, everywhere. Private parts, the whole nine, up inside the neck and everything. I'll buy this one. And blotches come up. And why the blotches? Because those are stagnation points. This is my secret weapon for detoxification. And that's something you can do daily. Another thing you can do daily is hot and cold showers. At the bare minimum, rinse off with cold water. For men, it's great for testosterone. It's called water therapy. It's been used for ages. And so it's good for circulation. It's good for lymph flow. Because remember, the heart has a pump for your blood, right? But your water, right, your cleansing fluids, everything that keeps lubricated, doesn't have a pump. So your pump is either walking or it's moving. That's why those trampolines are popular. However, I bought a trampoline. I didn't use the thing. I live on the beach. Just walk on the beach. Take your shoes off. Walk barefoot. Trampolines are good if you live in Alaska, you know. But the fact of the matter is, just get out and walk. Take your shoes off. You're gonna move that lymph. You know, get everything moving. You know, move your own lymph. Do that. Do some stretching and face stretching. Get in there and just whatever, move your own body, move it or lose it, remember that. And dry before you get into the shower. And you'll see it'll slough off old dry skin. For people that are starting out and doing fasts, I recommend that you go the first day raw food. So it's salads and, thank you brother, salads, soups, cold soups, juices. You kind of want to don't do cooked food on that day, but you can do a little avocados, possibly some nuts, a little bit of fruit. Fruit's good on the first day of a fast. So you start easing into it, right? Get off the coffee for the fast though. Gotta let the coffee go. And the headaches will come, but just ride it out. because the emotions and the detox will happen. And you do a flush. I like ginger, apple juice, olive oil. I would do a tablespoon and build up through 5 days. Garlic and ginger and apples and olive oil will start loosening up the gallbladder, the gallstones, any kind of stones that you got in there. You can also do a saltwater flush. A saltwater flush is 2 tablespoons of the best salt you can purchase in a quart of water. Anybody know a better recipe? First thing in the morning, you'll be pooping in an hour or so, and it's all coming out. Then you can start off with your morning juice. The Juice Man's got tons of recipes. Juice Man's still alive, by the way. He's 85. I interviewed him last year. Beets are great for cleansing. Make sure you use the greens. I like vegetable juice straight if you can't handle the taste. If you're new to this stuff, carrots and apples will sweeten anything up. Pure water, as many juices as you want a day. If you're hungry, drink more juice. I recommend greens on a fast. I don't like a lot of cacao and a lot of stimulative superfoods. Essential Living Foods, what a great company this is. Kip Stroden, anybody know this guy? This guy's a fascinating, wonderful human being. And he's got an incredible product line, and he treats his indigenous partners in the rainforest good like we do. So I like this guy a lot. You see this label, Essential Living Foods? Support that company because it's good. He's got a high protein acai and goji superfood mix. You know when you see the Essential Living Foods label, it's the highest quality source of everything that he's going to sell on the market. You're going to get the best. Freshwater and saltwater algae, that's going to give you the building blocks and all those little micronutrient fats that you need, omega-3s and omega-6, in a balanced form too, so your body can produce the 6s, 8s, and 9s that it needs. And so wherever you get your greens, source it good, and have as much as you want too, because it's powder form. It's going to go right in, liquid, juice up, and you really feel the power on this too. I mean, I feel great on my 1 day fast. I got tons of energy. I did yoga first thing in the morning. I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning. No matter what you put in, you want to make sure it's moving. And you know it's moving when you're on a fast, because all of a sudden you're like, oh, you got the salts going, you got the flax seeds, you're like, wow, man, I never knew something like that could come out of me. You know, get the bentonite clay in there, get some fiber, you know, and add the powders. Take the herbs. So when your organs are resting, you can have whatever you want that's liquid, right? That's liquid, organic, fresh squeezed. Remember, fresh squeezed. You don't want to be buying enzyme devoid nutrition when you're on a fast. You're scrubbing the barnacles out and you're getting the toxicity out. Therefore, you don't want to be putting any back in. So you're skin brushing, you're drinking pure water, you're drinking fresh squeezed organic juices, and you're taking herbs to target the organs, right? And so so that's day, if you're doing a 5-day fast or something simple, even if it's a 10-day fast, day 1 and the last day are raw food, right? And instead of breaking the fast and start eating raw nuts and raw avocados, go a lot lighter than that, because those level of fats might be too toxic on your system. So you want to break down more with like salads and fruit and stuff like that. And watch you don't overdo it with the fruit, because of course fructose, you know, spikes the glycemic index, and everyone is predisposition to glycogen spikes is different. So you want to keep your eye on that. And I do recommend, back to the Mercola thing, try his nutritional typing, see where you're at. But I did like, he said, try gluten-free for 60 days. And the reason I like that is because one of my yoga teachers, Allie Hamilton, I hadn't seen her in a year. She had a couple of kids, and I saw her, and I was like, Allie? She's like, yeah, I went gluten-free. Nobody can recognize me anymore. All the inflammation went out of her face. She lost weight. She lost all the baby stuff and the kids. So I'm on it right now. I like it. A lot less inflammation. I don't get the gut stuff. Apparently the celiac disease or something. I don't believe in diseases, first of all, because we're more powerful than that. However, there's a linguistic term called celiac something or other. And apparently it happens with gut issues. That's because a lot of the grains have been hybridized and they're not fermented and blah, 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 and some other theory about that or something. And I think it might have some applicability to me. and or somebody else. So I'm romancing the stone on that one. Does that make sense? Gluten-free, everybody, anybody heard of it? Try it out if it floats your boat. I don't know. I kind of like it.